What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to give you my watch list for Monday morning, my day trading watch list, and my game plan for the week ahead. This will be our first full week for the month of July. Last week, Monday, was the end of June, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the first 3 days of July. But it was kind of a funny week, of course, because we had the holiday on Friday. So, long weekend, which I hope many of you guys enjoyed. And now here we are back at it, looking at what the game plan and watch list will be for Monday morning. So what I can tell you is that there is definitely still a lot of strength and a lot of momentum in the market. So, BMNR, case in point, this stock ended up going up 97% on Friday. And if we look at this just over the last, week, just in the last week, it's unbelievable. This thing has gone up 3,853%. It's crazy. Just on Friday, it went from $55 a share to nearly $160. So this is incredible momentum. Now, where is all this momentum coming from? Well, in the case of BMNR, it was a $250 million private placement, which was to be used for the purchase of cryptocurrency. And so because there's been so much strength in the crypto markets, small cap companies are sort of becoming a vehicle for investing in crypto. So here's one of the challenges with investing in crypto. As you probably well know, one of the big challenges is finding trustworthy brokers. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't any out there. It's just a challenge. But in the United States, there are dozens of very reputable broker-dealers for investing in the stock market. Charles Schwab, for instance. They're probably the biggest at this point in the country, one of the biggest in the world, and they're just one. But there's dozens that are really well respected and have deposit insurance. So you can feel comfortable parking, $250,000 or $500,000 or more in those accounts. Well, a lot of those brokers traditionally have not given you very much access to the crypto space. So you just if you had a big account with one of those firms, you really couldn't invest in cryptocurrency unless maybe you just bought Bitcoin or something like that. Well, what some of these small cap stocks are doing is they are making it kind of like their business model to invest in specific cryptocurrencies. So now when you invest in that company, you're therefore indirectly investing in cryptocurrency, right? So it's kind of a way for it makes investing in crypto a little bit maybe more possible for institutional investors who are maybe not allowed to typically invest in crypto, but they can do it through these vehicles, or even retail traders that might want to invest in the crypto markets, but just wouldn't feel comfortable using one of these offshore brokers. So the result is we've been seeing a number of catalysts where the headline is private placement to be used for the purchase of cryptocurrency, and the price skyrockets. However, we have also seen instances of headlines which are very similar. A headline of a stock where it's, let's say the headline's a little different. It's they have a proposal that the board of directors has approved to purchase $250 million of cryptocurrency. But wait a second. If they haven't already gotten the money, then how are they going to get the money? Remember, a lot of these companies are very small. So where are they going to get $250 million? Where are they going to get $1 billion worth? We had one just the other day. I might not remember the ticker off the top of my head, but we had one the other day that popped up. It was this one. And they had a proposal to buy over $1 billion of cryptocurrency. But I said to myself, well, where are they going to come up with that money? And the reality is, for a lot of these companies, the way they're going to come up with the money is by selling shares to you on the open market, dumping shares to you. So wait a second, they're going to dump shares, that's diluting the value of the company, so then the price goes back down. So that doesn't really work. But in the case of BMNR, they're not, technically they are diluting because they gave shares to the institution that gave them the money, but it's already a done deal. The money's already there. So they're not selling those shares on the open market. Now, there's a question of this institutional investor that bought $250 million essentially of this stock, right? They gave them $250 million. So this company can go buy cryptocurrency. But in exchange, they got $250 million worth of stock. that $250 million worth of stock is up, I mean, literally billions of dollars. It's unbelievable how much it's up right now because of the price movement. So, $250 million up 3,800%. So now the question is, does that company hold or do they sell? On the one hand, it's never going to get better than that. I mean, it'd be crazy not to sell. On the other hand, is there enough liquidity for them to sell all the shares that they own? And the answer is that there's probably not right now on the open market. And so the result is that the institutional investors that are in on this, there's been 219 million shares of volume since the news came out. So when we look at this headline, we'd have to see what the purchase price was, and I might not be able to get it right off just here quick enough for this recap. But in any case, there is a question of at what point, when do they decide to start selling, right? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it won't be for quite a while, but they own 55 million shares at $4.50 a share. So that's the price they own the shares. I actually thought it was more shares at a lower price, but in any case, so they own 55 million shares. So every dollar a share, this goes up, they're up 55 million bucks. So 10 points is 550 million. I mean, these are crazy amounts of money. 100 points, right? 5 billion. So it's up almost 200 points. It's 10 billion. It's crazy. But can they sell that 55 million shares on the open market? And would they? Would they turn around and sell it, 2 days after the news came out? I don't know the answer to that question, but we could reference back SBET. So SBET is another company that had a similar type of headline. So this company had this big catalyst, and the stock went from $4 all the way up to about 130, but then ultimately ended up coming back down, to $10, which is where it's at now. So I think it's probably safe to say that BMNR has more downside potential in it right now than it has upside. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I just think that that's kind of the reality. BMNR, sorry. But it doesn't mean it couldn't go higher. I mean, it certainly could. I'm not taking a position on it here. It's just sort of my opinion that at $120 a share, we've missed. I traded the move, so I made money on it. But if you haven't traded it yet, you've missed the move. But here's the good news. There will be another one around the corner, because there always is. Those of you guys who missed SBET, right, a couple months ago, and I said, don't worry, there'll be another one around the corner. Well, we just had it with BMNR. And so those of you guys that missed this one, don't worry, there'll be another one, because that's how it always is. So once you learn these patterns, that's when you're empowering yourself to be able to capitalize on this volatility in the market. And that's what I'd like to see for you guys. By the way, let me remind you, over at Warrior Trading right now, we have our 4th of July sales going on. So our 4th of July sale is ending the day after tomorrow. So if you haven't already checked it out, make sure you check it out. The 4th of July sale is on our Warrior Starter and our Warrior Pro bundles. So you can come over to the website. I'll put a link. I'll pin it to the top of the comments, and I'll link in the description where you can come check it out. So once you guys sign up, you can go over to the dashboard right here. Go to your members dashboard. From the members dashboard, click here to enter the room. You'll go ahead and enter right here. You'll log in. And then you'll see essentially the same layout that I've got right here in front of you. Okay, so I'm going to open this, loading it back up. And I have some pop-out windows, but I'm going to close them for right now. I don't need them. Okay, so now let's talk about let's talk about two things. So number one, a lot of questions. Ross, what happened on Thursday? So many of you guys know I've been in Europe, and I've been trading every day, haven't missed a day. Wasn't planning on missing any days. But I had a flight to Spain on Thursday that wasn't going to interrupt trading, except France went on strike. Air traffic controllers decided to go on strike. And so all of a sudden, everything got screwed up for me, for my traveling plans. So, it's not that it's all about me, but in this case, it certainly felt personal. So anyways, I was not able to trade on Thursday. So I ended up missing the day. I was very disappointed. And I was looking at the scanners on my phone, and I saw GITS at 4 a.m. spiked up from a low of about, it's like $2 a share, straight up to $7.22. And my blood was boiling. I mean, I thought I was going to blow a gasket. I was like, because I can't trade on my phone. I knew if I tried to trade on airport Wi-Fi, it would just be ridiculous. And there's, I can't. It just, you just have to recognize, when to just call it and accept the destiny doesn't want you to trade. But I was just livid. So couldn't trade this, spikes up, but then it ends up kind of selling off. But then you guys ended up having a couple other stocks that made big moves. Let's pull up our top gainers scan. I want to look at the top gainers from Friday because the question is, are any of them worth trading going into Monday? So EMPG. EMPG is kind of unbelievable. It's a recent IPO. Okay, so keep that in mind, recent IPO. And this stock, with no news whatsoever, mind you, squeezes from $5 to $23 a share. So sometimes I say this, if you miss a move, don't worry, there's always going to be another one. I mean, these are patterns that are going to happen again and again and again. They'll go with or without you. So on this one, I missed it. I missed the whole thing. And there were some really nice micro pullbacks here down at 8. There was another one right up here at 16. And there was another one right there at 20. And I missed all of it. So a fantastic move there. Congratulations for those of you guys that nailed it. Ended up selling off and pulling back, which isn't really a surprise because it didn't have news, but it didn't change the fact that we had some really nice volatility. Then you had another nice move on CV. And this one went from 350 all the way up to 12, but then came back down. So as the day went on, momentum, sort of shifted. You had a couple stocks that popped up with no news, and then you had a couple stocks, like certainly BMNR, that just kept squeezing and going higher and higher and higher. Now, LIXT, this is another familiar stock that we've traded a number of times over the last couple of days or last couple of weeks. This one squeezed up in pre-market from 230 up to 380, pulled back, grinds higher. So I saw a lot of you guys posting some big P&Ls that you did really well on, sorry, I keep saying Friday, but on Thursday. So congratulations, that's awesome to see. Now, I don't think any of them are really set up for another trade going into Monday. So that's going to go off the list. We don't have a good continuation stock from the previous day. However, we do have we can look at our continuation scanner, and this is just going to show us our big moves from the last week or so. I've already reviewed all of these, and there's nothing in here that right now I'm super interested in. So I'm going to kick that scanner off as well. All right, so now we're going to go to after hours top gainers. Now, this is a little bit tricky. So the market was closed, right? Typically, when the market, unfortunately, going into a long weekend, you've got a 3-day weekend, and whatever happened on Thursday kind of gets forgotten, which is why it's a more common time for companies to put out bad news compared to good news. So we're going to look at the recent IPO top moving, and we're also going to look at the let's see, recent reverse split. Where is it? There it is. All right, so I want to look at these two scans here because I think we might find some ideas in this area. So egg. All right, so EGG, egg, cool symbol, cool ticker, very edgy. Everyone likes eggs. So egg, 8.3 million share float. It's a recent IPO. So what's the all-time high on this? It's back here up at 1334. So could that curl back up? Here's the thing that's interesting. In total, how much volume has this ever had? In total, you're at about 1.9 million shares of volume. No, sorry, didn't include that last day. I'm trying to include all the days here. I got it. It doesn't matter. So, but in total, the total volume ever is probably like 10 million shares. So it's relatively low volume, and you're not going to have a lot of people that are stuck holding it as bag holders. So it has some upside potential. GEM, J-E-M, Hong Kong company, lower float, already tried to pop up and then failed. That one's probably going to be a little bit riskier. Circle, 215 million share float. Going to avoid that one. Price is too high. But look at how high that went. That went all the way to about $300 a share and then back down to 175. So really big move there. CV, this one already made its move. Gran, This one. So let's just look to see. 1.8 million shares at $5 a share. Hong Kong-based company, right? So, this is kind of right up there with like, it wouldn't shock me to see it put in a squeeze, but just be careful. Just know that these are stocks that can be very volatile. They'll go up, they could go up 100, 200%, and then give it all back in the same day. And then that's probably the juiciest one, the one with the most potential, but it might not play out. Just something to keep in mind. Now, in the recent reverse split scan, some of these are recent reverse splits, but they've already started to make a move. So I look at the split where it was on the calendar and then on the daily chart, and then I look to see, if it's already popped up on heavy volume. These ones haven't. So they're definitely worth keeping still an eye on. And I'm just going to make a note to my development team. Let's see. Can you add date of the reverse split so I can sort by that? Thank you. So I'll add date here so then I can sort by the most recent splits. Some of these are very low floats. I mean, you could sort by the lowest float if you wanted to. But some of these have already started to pop up. So this one, very low float. Another one with a very low float. But it wouldn't surprise me if Monday morning we have a stock that pops up, at 4 a.m. like GITS does and then just sells off. One thing I would say about this is that to me, this is a short when this happens. So what ends up happening is basically this is kind of remarkable. In one candle, this goes up on, basically like 800,000 shares of volume. It goes up like 300%. Now, ended up trading 46 million shares. So let's just say for a second that you're somehow affiliated with a company and you want to sell a ton of shares. All right. So you own a ton of shares, you've got a lot of money, and you want to sell. Well, what if you bought 1 million shares on the open market at 4 a.m. and caused the stock to spike up 400%? So that'd be a million shares. And then all day long you can sell. Because look at all the liquidity that brought in. 46 million shares of volume. And now there's a lot of institutional traders that have talked about using that kind of technique where they commit capital to invest in one of these companies with the real intention of selling. And so you've got to be a little bit mindful of that. When you see this big spike and that's then the peak and it's all downhill from there, I feel like that was not really buying. That was not a genuine buyer. That was a buyer who had the intention of selling all day long. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I speculate that. And it's not just an idea that maybe people would do that. I mean, it's well known that that's a technique that big institutional hedge fund type of traders use when they want to unload the stock. So that's just something to kind of be aware of. So if you see that on Monday or any other day, just note that sometimes what might seem initially as bullishness is not, especially in this case because it had no news. Doesn't mean you couldn't have traded it to the long side and even made money, but just something to kind of think about. So this ended up selling off all day long. It didn't hold its levels. What I like to see naturally are stocks that pop up, pull back, and then keep going higher. Now, as a momentum trader, if something is popping up and dipping even just for a moment, I'll buy that dip and try to ride the momentum for the next leg higher. But in order to really do well, I want to see a stock continue, over the course of hours, higher and higher and higher. And usually we need a strong catalyst for that to happen. Although occasionally it'll happen with no news. But when something pops up with no news, I'm just kind of thinking a bit more of like, get your base hit, get in, get green, get out, and be careful. I mean, look, sometimes stocks will go up quite a lot with no news and it doesn't make sense. It's a short squeeze, whatever. But I don't usually take my biggest positions ever when that's the case. I try to be a bit more aggressive when I feel like there's a logical reason for the move. So anyways, so going into Monday, while we have Gran as a recent IPO top moving stock to keep on a side chart, I think the real name of the game is going to be watching for catalysts that are in the crypto space. Now, the price of Bitcoin did come down a little bit over the weekend. Let me just see. Well, actually, it ended up rallying back up a little bit here. But so it came down a little bit. There was some news of some wallets, crypto Bitcoin holding wallets that have been untouched for haven't moved for 14 or 15 years or something like that. But suddenly moved, and they control $8 billion worth of Bitcoin. So there was a little bit of a pullback, but all things considered, not really that much. Even over the last 5 days, the price is still up 2%. So although it dropped a little bit on the 4th, it wasn't staggering. So at this point, I think the market, I mean, there's no question about it. The S&P 500 is very, very strong. I think that we do have to recognize how much politics does play into this. There's a lot of irony in all of this. Just kind of laugh. I mean, I try not to get into the politics and just focus on the charts. But at the end of the day, there are some political things going on behind the scenes that are certainly influencing the market. Obviously, you could argue to what extent interest rates are political, but the interest rates being as high as they are have certainly caused pressure and held back the market. But naturally, the tariffs caused a big panic in the market, and then that kind of, is at least in the short term resolved itself mostly. This big budget, that passed, which increases the debt and everything else, that's going to be a stimulus on the economy in certain ways. So the market is strong. I do worry about, the long term, but in the short term of the next 3.5 years, I think the market's positioned pretty darn well. So I'm just going to keep trading aggressively when I see good opportunities and capitalizing as much as I can, but being mindful to put away a little bit of that profit for a rainy day. Because, at some point, all of this debt that we're taking on is going to have to get paid off. And, that's going to, I mean, I don't know. There's gonna be, I think, some economic consequence to that at some point. But right now, we're on the, economic kind of stimulus side of things. And if we do see interest rates drop, then that's just only going to increase, the market as well. So I think we've got a lot of things going for us as traders right now in the short term. And so it's a good time to be a trader. It's a good time to be capitalizing on volatility. And I will see you guys live streaming tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, those of you guys who haven't already checked out our sale here at Warrior Trading, make sure you check it out. 4th of July sale right there. Where I sit right now on the month, well, we ended up having just a short week last week. But I finished the month of June. Let's see. So this is my total for June. $1,334,539.33 for the month of June. Wow. That was a really strong month. And last week, 99,000 from Monday, and then going into July, made 51,000 and 17,000. So finished the week at 169,000, but only $69,000 is for July. So I'm 6.9% of my way towards the $1 million goal for July. Hopefully I beat it the way I did in June, but I'll definitely need to, I've got some work in front of me. So I'm going to be sitting down Monday morning, looking to capitalize on volatility and trade aggressively when we see things moving. So I hope to see you guys in the chat room. And I'll remind you, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk and always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. And hey, good news, as a Warrior Pro member, you guys get access to a simulator so you can practice. All right, so that's what it's all about. Take it slow. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.